Hello, everybody. It's your boy, Coach Vic, certified land investor with you today. Today, I'm going to answer all of your burning and deep questions that it comes to land investing. Because let's be honest, a lot of you guys do have questions or doubts or fears or whatever you want to call it about getting into something like this. Now, I know some of you have been burned before. I know some of you have taken some other course and they learned how to make money, but then they tried it or didn't, and it didn't work out. And they feel cheated, and they also feel a little embarrassed, and they feel all these other negative emotions. Some people actually took a land investing course. They made a little bit of money, but the work involved was a lot more than they expected, what was promised to them. Not to mention, they know there's ways to do things better and more efficiently, but that wasn't taught to them in the course, and they will have to fork up $30,000, $50,000 to get the premium coaching that they're actually going for in the first place. Or maybe this is the first time you're doing anything of the sort of some type of entrepreneurism or side hustle or just anything, and you're not just doing something off the beaten, or you're doing something that you're told to do, like go to school, maybe go to college and get a job. So this is something completely different, and you don't have friends and family around you to kind of give you the ins and outs of different things and different roadblocks to avoid and different things to watch out for. So hopefully this live stream today will answer your questions. Now, like as always, if you can hear me, you can see me okay, let me know. Put in the comments whether you're watching this live, you're watching the replay. I have a feeling this is going to be something that a lot of people find very useful for a long time, because a lot of the answers I'm about to give to some of these questions, they're going to be something that most people have when they first get into this, when they first join the group, when they first hear about land investing, they hear how easy it is and this and that. So without further ado, let me get started with my own story, just so I can kind of set the stage a bit. So in 2016 or so, I was working in Silicon Valley. I live in San Francisco, and Silicon Valley is about between 30 and like 50 miles south of San Francisco, right? So there's a bunch of different cities and along the way that all make up Silicon Valley. One of those, during that year, 2016, I was working about 45-minute drive away. That's without traffic. So maybe about 40 miles or so. And with traffic, it was like a million years. It just took forever. I was noticing a lot of cars in the carpool lane just zipping past me. And they were electric cars, and they didn't have a bunch of people in them like you're supposed to bypass the traffic. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I should get an electric car. I looked up the prices. I couldn't afford them. So I decided to find a side hustle to, pay for the car while I actually work my day job, and I can pay for my bills and everything else. Well, I found, after going through a lot of stuff, I found land investing, and it was okay. Now, when I first got started, my first two deals worked out really well. Very, 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 very high ROI. But there's a lot of things I didn't know. And it took a long time for me to make those two deals actually happen. Now, if I would have known some of the things I'm about to share with you now, those first two deals probably would have been a lot more profitable, and I probably would have made a lot more money and a lot faster in the process. So without further ado, let me get you guys going, because now you see where I come from. I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of blunders. I even quit land investing for a while because of said mistakes and not knowing there was a better way. But now that I've been to the other side and I'm doing it successfully, I'm going to let you know what you need. So, with that said, if you're watching this live, make sure if you have a question, go ahead and ask the question. I'll try to check periodically to see if anybody's asking any questions. So that way, if you do have a question, I can get to it and answer it while I'm live. Now, if I don't get to it in time, I'll have to answer it in the comments. So hopefully that will be okay with you. So just let me know. All right. Anyways, moving on. First question. How long does it take to get your first deal? That's a good question. Now, when I say about, when that question is about deal, that means to actually find your first piece of investment property and actually acquire it, whatever means you have, right? So for most of us, it's just going to be using our spare income and just buying it out. Hopefully you're only paying a couple $100, maybe $1,000. And, now you have some property and maybe in a different state, probably a different state in a place you've probably never seen or heard of, but now you own property there. How long does that take? Well, it depends. For me, it was my first deal happened quickly. And the first thing I would tell you is getting property is actually pretty easy. There's a lot of unwanted vacant land out there, and there's a lot of people who are looking to get rid of it, but going the traditional route of getting a real estate agent and trying to put it on the market just doesn't work for them because it's not something that most real estate agents know how to sell. It doesn't necessarily you can't just put it out there and just people are just going to flock to it like they would at home, especially in certain areas. So it takes a different skill set. It takes a different mindset to actually sell it properly. So for me, my first mailer got a response. I got my first property when I first tried, I think about 2 weeks. Now, first time I did mail, I literally, you guys see that, this printer right here. Yeah, I printed out a bunch of letters on that bad boy, and me and my wife folded a bunch of envelopes, and we mailed them out. So however long it took for those envelopes to get to the people that own those properties, that's how long it took. And then someone replied to me pretty much right away. And on the price, I said, I'll buy this property for $104. Now, how did I come across that price? Well, at the time, I didn't really know much about property research or looking at stuff in the area. And I just took what the county said the value was worth, and I divided it by 4. That was it. That was it. Didn't have a complicated thing, didn't check comps, didn't do none of that. To say, okay, the property says, so it must have said it was like worth like $400 or $500. Divided by 4, got $104. Didn't even know. I put it all in a spreadsheet, let the spreadsheet do the math for me, did a mail merge, printed out a bunch of letters, and off it went. 2 weeks later, when it finally got to the owner, and at the time, instead of them calling me, they sent me the letter back, signing it and all that, giving me their phone number. I was in business. Didn't know what I was doing, nervous as hell, but it only took them 2 weeks. These days, when I'm talking to others, I'm teaching others how to do this, they have to learn a couple of things. They have to get their mindset right. They have to get over the fear of actually getting started. Early on, people are always excited to learn the new skill and be a part of the group and, all these other great, wonderful things. But it's a different story. We're like, all right, hey, now it's time to put in work. And maybe you had a long work day. Maybe you had a death in the family. Maybe you're just out of money. Maybe, you fill in the blank. But guess what? That happens to all of us. And if you want things to keep moving forward, you have to work in spite of your current circumstances. So with that said, my fastest person getting a deal, it took them their second day of conversating with people. So I think it took about a week or so for them to go through the first part of the curriculum, to learn some things, to get their budget together, get their mindset right, learn what they're looking for, and actually doing research on what I didn't do when I first got started. Their second conversation, they got a deal. First time they tried it, didn't go as well. Second time they got a deal. So it was a couple of weeks. Same people, they probably sold their property within a month after. So total time, a month, not necessarily a month after getting that deal. Or the 5 weeks, but whatever. So it could take anywhere from a couple of days to 5 weeks. So now when I got restarted in 2020, my first conversation, I got something. It took me 2 weeks to go full cycle. Now, granted, I had some prior experience doing it, but yeah. Now, if you're the type of person who's not committed, you're expecting to be quote unquote motivated to get started, it'll take you months. And because motivation is fleeting, it's a finite resource. It's kind of like expecting to be able to run your fastest. You just sprint for miles and miles and miles. It doesn't work. You can probably sprint for a couple of 100 yards and then you're exhausted. Motivation works the same way. So what do you do if you're not motivated? Well, that's when you have the accountability of a group or a buddy or whatever it is to keep pushing you. All right. So it depends. If you're really good, it can take you a couple of weeks to kind of get your first property and spend very little for it. Or if you're quote unquote waiting to be motivated, it might take you forever. All right. Every little thing, bump in the road that comes up, it's going to throw you off track and then you just won't do the work. And it's not a ton of work. It's not a ton of time. All right. We'll get into that. All right. Hopefully that answers that question. Next question. How much money do I need to invest for my first property? Well, that's a great question. If you think about it, obviously, the more money you have, the easier things will be because you can use it to buy fancier property. You can use it to buy all types of fancy tools and automation. You can use it for, coaching and help. And, the sky's the limit. But what if you want to save as much money as possible, whether you have it or you don't? So when I got restarted in land, I wasn't working. I haven't been working. I was in grief and pain, and I had a negative bank account. Now, if you're in this group, you probably see my intro video where I kind of go into that. But I didn't have any money. I literally had an overdrawn account. I had to figure out ways to do it. Now, I always recommend if you're brand new to this and you don't have a lot of spare cash, number one, make sure you're not using cash that would otherwise go to something important like food or rent or whatever, right? Use it stuff that you're going to blow it on at the club or for Netflix or whatever it is. And if you don't have that, find some things around the house to sell, Uber for a couple weekends, whatever. I say that because all you really need is to have a roughly $500 for your first property. And now, will you spend all 500 on that property? It depends on the area you choose. Now, I have a somebody in the group. They just got their first property for $75. How do they do that? Well, there are some tricks to the trade that if you join a group, I can let you know about, but there's motivated sellers out there. You can find them. And for just $75, this person got their property. All right. So $500 is roughly the amount you need. And hold on. What? What's in your teeth? Oh, all right. Good job. $500 is roughly the amount you need. And what happens after that, depending on how you wheel and deal and negotiate, you're going to basically be able to use that. Now, that 500, after that, you're still going to need money to facilitate the deal. How much would you need to facilitate the deal? Well, roughly about $150, 200. Why? Well, you got to mail documents back and forth to the person that you're going to buy from. You got to record the deed with the county. If you're using things, if you're doing it online, you have to pay for that service. And yeah, that's roughly it. Now, when you're marketing and you're selling, you can do all types of free stuff. You can use Facebook itself, like its marketplace. You can do Craigslist, which is free. You can post your property on Zillow, which is free. You can, if you're, there's probably other ways that you can do that's free. And if you don't want to use free, there's other things you can send letters out to neighbors and things like that. Like, hey, I got a property I'm looking to sell. You like this area because you live here or you bought property here, et cetera. So all said and done, the top end, you probably need about $700, between $700 and $1,000 top end. And that's making sure you have everything needed to facilitate the deal and not be slowed down. Can you do it for less? Absolutely. When I first got restarted, I spent $375 for a property. Actually, I bought two of them for $700. I spent a couple, like $60 skip tracing some names, $25 to text all those names, and mailing fees to get the documents back and forth and whatnot. So yeah, I probably was in it all together for probably around that price. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Let me take a look to see if anybody answered your question real quick. I want to make sure I'm handling everything. Any questions so far? We good? We good? All right, sounds good. Next question. How many hours a day do I need to invest in land? It's a good question. Well, for me, as a person who's seasoned, I spend between 0 and maybe 3 to 4 hours a day. 0 in the days I don't have much going on because I got my work done early. And 3 to 4 hours, it's like, okay, I got a couple of properties I'm researching, as in I've talked to the owner. We're going to do a deal. I have to make sure that the property is good enough for me to purchase. So I'm doing my due diligence. And then if I'm like, okay, this looks good, let me go to the bank, get them a check so I can send to them, and this and that. Once you do that, getting there and back and all that, it's a couple hours. Now, some people don't like to use the cashier's check the way I do. The cashier's check do have a little bit of protection. So if somebody does something crazy, you file a fraud claim with your bank. Banks don't play around when it comes to their money, because that's the difference between the cashier's check and your check. Cashier's check is money out of the bank where you pay for it, but it's literally the bank's money. Like the bank have their own bank account, so to speak. And you're using that to pay for your goods or service. And you're saying, hey, that person defrauded me. Well, next, guess what? They're going to get their money back. So I use cashier's checks. But some people, they'll use a personal check. So they don't have to go to the bank. You can obviously pay for postage online. You can do a lot of stuff online if the person you're buying from is tech savvy. Most people I talk to aren't. They're older people. They don't have or the desire to use the internet. But if you're using someone tech savvy, you can do things online and it can be done faster that way. So you'll spend even less time. But in general, yeah, that 3 to 4 hours is a lot of it is doing manual work of getting up, getting off my ass, going to the bank, putting stuff in the post office, maybe a couple of phone calls. That's it. And when you're selling, same thing. You may get a couple of phone calls or texts or emails about the property you have for sale. It doesn't take long to answer those. I like those conversations because that means money's coming my way. So yeah, between 0 and about 3 to 4 hours a day, right? So in all, I work about 10 hours a week, if that. I spend a lot more time in the Facebook group than I do in my own land business, but it is what it is. Next question. How can you make a consistent $10,000 a month in land? It's a good question. It's a really good question. Now, I know a lot of people, $10,000 is a lot of money. And it's a lot of money to me too. So I'm not going to act like I'm some big shot where if I lost $10,000, I'm not going to trip off it. But it's funny because that seems to be the number everybody comes to when they're thinking about doing something online or starting their own business. Like they can make $10,000 a month, $10,000 a month. And it's kind of small potatoes when you think about it. Again, I can't afford to just lose $10,000. So I'm not saying, I wouldn't be glad to get it, but it's small potatoes. And I get it. We got to move in steps. I get it. I'm not trying to hate, I'm not trying to, throw salt in the game right there, but $10,000 isn't a lot in the land game. And here's why. Let's just say, I'm just going to start making stuff up right now, using real numbers. Let's say you find an area you like and you can buy property there for between $500 and $1,000 per lot or per property. And for every property you buy, but in that price range, you can sell for $4,000. Well, that means you can basically, you sell 2.5 properties, you're already at $10,000, right? If you like that amount, all you need to do is then kind of backtrack. Well, how many people do I need to communicate with to, make sure I get 2 or 3 properties every month that I can sell? Usually, if your mailer is dialed in, meaning the messaging is on point, the pricing is on point, you're not in a very crowded area, and 100 different offers will get you that minimum. You can do that in one subdivision. A subdivision is like a neighborhood, so to speak. So that's not even a whole town, let alone the whole county. One subdivision, you can get deals every 100 or so offers that you put out there, whether you're texting people or you're sending letters. If you know the area well, because you've done your research, as you sold your first one or whatever, you learn even more about the area. As people ask questions, you have to figure out those questions or whatnot. It becomes easier and easier to sell property in that area because it's almost like selling in your own backyard. That is a sale once, little over once a week. A lot of times when you have everything dialed in, and it's a good area, and it doesn't mean it's pretty. It doesn't mean it's full of like high spenders. It can literally just be a bunch of people who like unrestricted land. There's no restrictions, no deed restrictions. You can do what the hell you want, including do meth on the property. Guess what? You're going to sell it quickly. You'll also have more money to do deals that cost more than $500 to $1,000. Maybe buy a property that you can purchase for $1,500 or $2,000 and sell for $8,000 or $10,000. You see what I'm saying? Do you see why $10,000 is a small amount? But the point is, you send the same right amount of mail for the amount that you need, knowing how many people are going to say, yes, I'll sell to you at the price that you want, how quickly you'll be able to sell it if you do the right things. You only need to sell a couple properties a month. If you got more money to spend, you can buy a more premium property. It might just be one property a month. Buy for $3,000, sell for $10,000. Happens all the time. So yeah, that's all you need to do. Now, how do you make sure you keep that up going consistently? You got to constantly be looking to mail people. Now, again, if you stay in one subdivision, some subdivisions have about maybe 800 people or 800 lots, right? And it won't necessarily be 800 people. Some owners own more than one lot. But let's just say there's 800 lots in this one subdivision, and you're sending letters to 700 people or 600 people. 600, let's say you only do 100 a month. There's 100 letters out a month or text or whatever. That's 6 months worth of just income coming in. Mailing 100, getting a couple of deals, buying and selling. Mailing 100, getting a couple of deals, buying and selling. Depending on what you do, you might buy and sell more in 1 month, a little bit less in another month, but it'll average out to about $10,000. Now, the trick is, how do you scale? Well, it's a different conversation, and we won't talk about that now, but that's how you make your $10,000 a month. You're getting a couple deals a month, 2 or 3, making sure you're paying as little as possible, sell for about $3,000 to $4,000. You sell those a couple of deals every month, you're making your money. And by the way, sometimes it happens often. You don't have to find 3 or 4 different new people to sell or to sell to when you purchase lots. Some people, they want all the lots that you can get. So every month you're selling to the same person over and over and over again, because maybe they're an investor, or maybe they just like land because that's what they like. But that's how you can make $10,000 in a month. And this is not like some random what if scenario. This is not some, oh my God, that's only a once in a lifetime thing. No, it's extremely common. But you won't know that if you're playing on the sideline, double dutching. You know what I mean by double dutching? Like, I'm gonna get in. Okay, I'm gonna get in. Ooh, that's double dutching. Some of you guys be double dutching. That's why you don't realize the things I'm saying are true. All right. So far, so good. You guys getting any value out of this? Am I answering the questions that you need me to answer? Because I want to make sure that these questions are the ones that you guys want me to answer. I don't want to be wasting my time answering stuff that no one cares about. So write in the comments if you have a question, or if this is value or whatever. Anyways, moving on. A couple more questions. What tools do you really need for land investing? Like for real? This question comes up because a lot of people out there, they've seen other different programs and teachers and all of that in land. And a lot of them push their software on them. Now, I'm not saying the software that they're pushing is terrible or it's a ripoff, but what I'm saying is unnecessary. It could have you thinking you need to use their software. And for some people, it is necessary for the reason that they don't know how to use or do land investing without it. So if that software were to break, or they were to stop paying their subscription or whatever it is, they're no longer a land investor because they don't know how to do the job. So what do you really need? Well, all you really need is a phone, preferably a internet phone like VoIP, like Ring Central or Google Voice or something like that. Only because you don't want, maybe you don't want, I don't want people calling my regular phone number to actually call me. All right. Now you need that. You probably need a list building service. You don't need it. You can build a list by hand, but to save time, use a list building service. There's a bunch, the price range is all over the map from $50 a month to like $500 a month. Different services have different features, different, effectiveness, so to speak. How well do they give you the information? How accurate is it and all that? So that depends. But again, you don't need that. You can do it all for free. When I first got restarted, I didn't use the service. I didn't use the service for the first 6 or 7 months when I first got restarted. I did everything by hand. Sure, I was able to build some tools with software, but it wouldn't be much different than like using a couple macros in Excel, right? The formulas in Excel, so you can just have the Excel file calculate and do things for you. So yeah, and you need a service, necessarily, often a service to actually send your mailers out, or just to contact people. Like if you're going to do a text blast campaign, you need a service for that. Your mailers, you want to necessarily do a service for that, because you don't want to have to print things by hand like I did when I first got started. You want a service to do it. You give them a spreadsheet. They're like, okay, we're going to use your template, this spreadsheet, send all the people on the list, the letter you said, and be done with it. So a phone, maybe a list building service, and maybe a mailing service. That's all you really need. Oh, and the internet, obviously. That's it. Now, if you want to do more things, you want to make things more automated, you want to make things easier, then yes, purchase new things, purchase services, purchase marketing tools, but they're unnecessary. You only really need a phone and the internet. Everything else you can really do by hand and do this shit for free. It just takes a lot more time. You need a lot more knowledge to do it, but it's totally possible. What mailing service do I like to use to contact people? Well, I use Click-to-Mail. I said this in a group before, but Click-to-Mail's UI and the way it looks and its interface, it's just hard to use these days. They change it for the worse. It's terrible. However, they make it really easy for a guy like me to automate mailing, where I can be like, hey, Click-to-Mail, here's a new list. These are the template I want you to use. Send it out, and it's boom, done. So they make it easy in that regard. That's why I stick with it. And, you know, I know it's working because when I get my yellow letters like this one, I know they're getting sent out the way I expect them to. So I use that, but a lot of people use Rocket Print. There's a bunch of other ones out there. It doesn't really matter. Just find one that's comfortable for you. Just pick one and go. Find one that's comfortable and that you can afford and that you won't mind using every month or every week or whatever. Last couple ones. What do you look at when you're researching an area? It's a good question. Well, I obviously look at the current market. Like, what are people buying and selling for property in that area right now? I try to find out the different areas and subdivisions to see where it's hot and what's not. For example, if the poor part of town is doing really well buying and selling property, but the rich part isn't, and if I didn't know the difference, I could be wasting my time trying to contact people in the rich part when no deals are happening there because no one's selling. So therefore, there's no buyers, therefore there's no action. But in the lower income part of town, if I see that's where it is, I might concentrate my effort there and see if it's worth it, you know, see what type of buyers there are. Yeah, I'm gonna look at the price ranges. So not just what I can purchase property for, but what I can sell for. I'm looking at the demographics of the people who want property there and who live there already. I'm looking at, is it a ton of people selling property there or a handful? Are the people who are selling it there, is there any demand? Are people like having property they can't sell for years, or things are moving very quickly? I'm looking at all those factors, as well as just general attractions, like what's there, what would attract someone to be there? Again, what type of person would like to be in that area? What would they do if they bought property? I look at all those things so I can put together like a customer profile or avatar profile to kind of get an idea of what person that would be and who I'm going to be talking to. And I decide, like, do I want to talk to this person? Will the effort of getting property here pay off? If I want to get quick cash sales, but everybody seems to want to do to pay by monthly payments, maybe that's not worth it for me at the moment. Or maybe that's what I do want because I want more passive income, and you know, and it's all good because I know I can get property there for super cheap and I can sell it for a good price and just get money coming in every month. You know, it just depends. It totally depends. So I look at the market conditions, the price range, you know, supply versus demand, ease of use. That's another thing. How easy is it to work with the county to do the transfers, to get the questions I need answered? Is there a ton of restrictions in the area or not? And if there's restrictions, do the people who like that area like the restrictions? Because restrictions can keep meth heads out, or do people don't like them? Like maybe the meth heads, they have money. So, you know, it just depends. It depends, but that's kind of what I look at. And last question, how do you get over the fear of really getting started? This is probably the best question of them all. And I appreciate anybody who asked this because, well, it's tough to get over the fear. Let's look at this logically. Right now, you're probably conditioned, like most of us, to be told what to do every day, to be a follower. You go to school. Think about what you did when you went to school. Your parents said, you got to go to school. You got to do this. So you did it because your parents told you, or maybe you didn't do it. You go to school, your teacher's like, this is what you got to do. And this is how you do it, right? They tell you when to eat lunch. They tell you when to go back to classroom. You got to sit in rows. You got to be quiet. You got to listen. They're going to tell you what you're going to learn. And, you know, maybe they'll tell you why it's important to learn it. Maybe they won't. You know, tell you when you can leave, when you can have Christmas break and summer break. They tell you all these things. So it trains you to become a follower. College is not much different. You go into the professional world. It's not much different in school if you think about it. The only difference is there's no homework, right? They tell you what to do. You got to be there at a certain time. You got to sit at your desk, or you go to your station, or you're going to your construction site. You know, they tell you exactly how the things need to be done, this and that, right? The thing is, if you say, hey, you do these things, you're going to get a guaranteed paycheck. You do these things in school, you'll get a guaranteed grade, right? Or you'll at least pass to the next grade. You do these things, you're guaranteed something. Land investing is a little bit different. You do these things, you're not guaranteed shit. Any entrepreneur endeavor is like this. Now, I know now the harder I work, the more money I make, unlike what it was in my software background. But it's scary to think that what you're about to leave, quote unquote, certainty for this uncertain stuff. Like, how do you get over that? Well, for me, I realized that what I had before wasn't that certain. Because if someone decided they didn't like me anymore, be it because I'm being who I am or whatever it is, I'm gone. I have no control over that. If someone decides, hey, I'm going to make some really rash and reckless business decisions, and now the company goes out of business and I'm an employee of that company, I'm out of a job. It's nothing that I did. If there's a global pandemic going on and I can't go into work physically, guess what? I'm not making any money because I'm not in control. That is more uncertain to me than me understanding, like, look, there's land out there that people don't want. And I can acquire it for very little money and sell it to people who do want it. That seems a lot more certain to me. Real estate seems a lot more certain to me because it's been around forever. People are continuously to invest in it, learn about it, get rich off of it. People are going to continue to need it for various reasons. They need homes, businesses, places to do business, places to just live, not just like in a house live, but just do whatever they're called to do in life. That's real estate. You need that. You know, we don't live at sea. You know, we don't live in space. We don't live in the sky. We live on the ground. So when I realized that helps, but that doesn't always do it because sometimes the fear is actually getting started, actually all the work. Then I realized I keep saying I want to live like this. I want to be able to travel, right? I want a legacy for my kids to follow and to hold. I want to give them something to inherit. I want to not worry about money anymore. I don't want to fight with my spouse about money. I don't want the stress about being in debt. All these things. But then I realized I'm still making decisions that won't help me live up to that value. It won't help me live up to that vision I want. I'm still making decisions that's going to keep me in debt. That's going to keep me worried about money. That's going to keep me worried about how I'm going to pay the bills. It's going to keep me there because the decisions I was making wasn't helping me look forward. Understanding there might be a little discomfort now making a new decision to, do this land stuff or whatever. But in a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is, I'm not only going to be more comfortable than I was, but I'm probably going to be better off than I ever was. That starts to help. But hey, we're human. Understanding that logically isn't the only thing. It's not the whole battle. I also employ the help of others to kind of push me to kind of keep moving, hold me accountable, hold my feet to the fire. So now, even whether I'm afraid or not, I got somebody kind of not necessarily forcing me, but like, hey, holding me accountable, making sure I do what I said I was going to do. So I live a life with integrity. So now I'm doing it. I could be deathly afraid, but I'm still doing it. Right. Then I have somebody ahead of me that knows what they're doing, that can watch over my shoulder to make sure I'm still going in the right direction as I do the work. So then my tension starts to ease a bit because I'm like, hey, somebody got my back. I'm not in that no man's land where I'm watching YouTube videos and trying to duct tape a bunch of different information together and hope and pray that it works. Even though I have no clue that if it should work or not. I have no clue if it does work, how to repeat it. All right. That's how I get over the fear. Hopefully, these questions helped you understand a little bit more about land investing. I hope it gave you a little clarity. And maybe now, because you understand what you need and what's going on, maybe you love land investing more and you really want to get started. Or maybe like, you know what, this ain't for me. I don't want to do it. It sounds like too much, whatever. Great. That means you're one step closer to doing what you do want. All right. So if you want to know more, hit me up. If I didn't answer your question, it's all good. Hit me up in the comments. I'll make sure I answer it next time in the comments. But that's it. Hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you found this valuable. I'm looking forward to just conversing with you guys, learning more about what you guys are looking to do. But until then, it's your boy, Coach Vic. Peace out.